The Madison County Board of Education work session and special session for Thursday, June 4th, 2020 is called into session. Ms. Bates, would you please lead us in the invocation?
Sure.
Thank you.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for everything that you give us and for all the needs that you provide so graciously. And I pray that you would help us as we move forward tonight to treat each other and our decisions with grace and justice. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
I recommend approval of the agenda dated June 4th, 2020.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of the agenda dated June 4th, 2020. Is there any discussion on the agenda? If there is none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Informational items. A, discussion of SROs and crossing guards contracts. Dr. Minsky.
Thank you. So with our crossing guard and SRO contracts, we have 4 separate MOUs. We typically lump them into one recommendation, which we'll have for you at the next board meeting. But the 4 separate MOUs, one provides information on what the sheriff's office, Sheriff Turner and his group provide as far as the number of SROs and those funding sources. Those are funded with. The second MOU is what the system pays for the school resource officers. A third one that we added last year was the part-time or the contract school resource officers, which are our retired, typically they have, well, the group that's working with us right now are retired SROs from other areas that are working for the Sheriff's Department. And the fourth one is the crossing guard. And the crossing guard was something new that we added last year to kind of make sure we had something in writing about what was the expectations and what we were going to provide. So with that being said, there's really 4 changes that we have with these MOUs. Number one is the Sheriff Turner is now providing a school resource officer supervisor. In the past, we had a lead SRO that got a supplement. Sheriff Turner now has Sergeant Locke, who is the individual who oversees the SROs. So his main role is to supervise school resource officers and the crossing guards. In the past, they had a sergeant. It was also over SROs, SWAT, K-9. So they're making it more specialized, which is great for us. And again, that position is paid by the sheriff's office. The second change we have is we change a statement in there. Now our school resource officers will be assisting with traffic duty, which leads us to number 3. In the past, we had separate contracts with our sheriff's office, to provide traffic services. So we'd have to pay a deputy a minimum of 3 hours. It was $90 in the morning, $90 in the afternoon for $180 a day, which adds up significantly. We look at the number of places that we had these individuals and the number of days we have of school. So met with the sheriff and asked if there was a way that we could repurpose, allow our SROs to help us with the traffic duty, and in turn eliminate those additional contracts and use those funds to repurpose them to provide 3 additional school resource officers in our schools. So he has agreed to do that. So with your permission next week at the board meeting, that is something that we're looking at doing. We feel that working with Sergeant Locke, we have a plan that we'll still be able to cover the heavy traffic spots with our current SROs, and we'll be able to take care and provide the same services that we're currently doing using contract deputies for that. Number 3 was the addition of the 3 school resource officers, and I'll share where their locations we're trying to set those up at. And then the other piece is the reduction of the number of crossing guards from 12 to 9, and I'll talk to you about that at a separate slide. So moving on, currently, where are we with our school resource officers? We have 6 school resource officers stationed at our 5 high schools, and I also included, if you look up there, New Hope SRO also covers New Hope Elementary School. Same with the 2 SROs at Sparkman High School, cover Sparkman High School and Sparkman 9. The highlighted schools are ones in which the sheriff's office covers and funds. So that's where they fund, so we kind kind of highlight them so you know which ones we fund, which ones the sheriff office funds. We have 4 school resource officers at our large middle schools. We have the 1 SRO supervisor, and then we have 3 contract school resource officers. Currently, they're stationed at Central Madison County Elementary School. They split between those. They should be there each day. 1 at Harvest Elementary School and 1 at Riverton Intermediate that also covers Mount Carmel. So 2 ways to look at this. Originally, we looked at trying to get 6. They could only find 3 this last year. So basically, we're splitting the cost of those. So we pay for half of the cost of each of those, or I'll show you a bit later, we'll pay for 3, they pay for 3. So that's what we're currently doing. Proposed is to continue those 13 positions that we have, to add 3 full-time school resource officers, and the sheriff is working hard to try to get those 3 contract positions filled. So a couple years ago, 2 years ago, we had 10 resource officers. This next year, if things fall in place and with the approval of the MOU, we'll be able to have 19 school resource officers. So talking with the sheriff and Sergeant Locke about locations, looking at the 3 full-time officers, 1 to be stationed at Madison Crossroads full-time. The other one, I know that says that there's 4 areas, but we have now deemed Career Tech, the Pace Academy, and the virtual school as 1 campus. So that's why I listed all 3 of those there. So it would cover that campus, which is here, and Riverton Elementary School. And then the other officer, the 3rd officer, would cover Moores Mill Intermediate and Lynn Fanning Elementary School. The contract deputies, we would have 1 stationed at Endeavor, which would cover Endeavor and Legacy, 1 stationed at Hazel Green Elementary School, which would support the high school, and then the 3rd at New Market and Walnut Grove to be able to cover those 2 schools. So when we talk about coverage, the expectation is if there's 2 schools listed that the SRO or the deputy is in that school every single day. The way we've had it in the past is they might stop by and visit, they might check in once a week, once every 2 weeks. But with this current plan moving forward, the expectation is schools are having a daily visit from our school resource officers. So that's the projected or piece for our SROs. The crossing guards, on the left-hand column, you can see the locations in which we've had crossing guards. Sergeant Locke will inform you that crossing guards are very, very difficult to find and find good ones that want to work and want to stay with us. So he has not had a lot of luck trying to keep people. We'll have people hired, they'll show up for a day, it's not what they expected, resign, leave. So he has a couple of crossing guards that have been very solid and very consistent. And based on utilizing our school resource officers, the feeling is we can reduce that number from 12 to 9 positions for our MOU. So the locations that we'd have would be Riverton Elementary School, Monrovia Middle, Monrovia Elementary, Mount Carmel, Sparkman High School would have 2, and then we'd hire 3 as backups or alternatives. So if we needed people to cover certain areas, we would have those alternatives and backups. So that's kind of a brief overview of where we are and what we're looking at. So questions you all have?
Sparkman High, you got the one there on right off Jeff as they come in off Jeff into the parking lot, and then they usually had the one on Ford's Chapel, but that was because of the lack of the walkway. So now that we've added the Skyway, is there the need for that?
The actual Skyway is going to be a huge savings because I don't want to give you. I'll estimate it. We were paying about $75,000 a year in deputy pay for that particular location. We're able to save that, which pays for 1 plus SR. That's kind of how we're working the piece. The Sky Bridge is a huge piece of allowing us to repurpose money to hire SROs. So we won't need a person there, and then the crossing guard would actually, if my understanding would be down at the entrance Sparkman 9, Sparkman High.
You need
And then
somebody there.
Ford's Chapel.
Because you've got people coming out from both.
The crossing.
And in.
Yeah, Mr. Evans has kind of he's the one that's kind of taken the lead and working with Sergeant Locke on the crossing guard piece of it, as far as kind of maximizing those locations.
But that was a deputy.
Yeah, that was a deputy.
Deputy, mhm.
Yeah.
And our SROs would be stepping out to those particular positions for crossing guard in the morning and afternoon.
I may have missed it.
Yes, ma'am.
Looking at everything, but like Owens Crossroads, who covers Owens Crossroads?
Owens Crossroads covered currently by the New Hope Elementary, New Hope High person, and that will continue for next year.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. And what we're hoping is in the future we can add a couple more contract individuals, and that would be a location. The other location would be Monrovia Elementary School to get one there full-time.
Well, with that in mind, why do you put it at Legacy instead of Monrovia? Because Monrovia shares the middle school.
Yeah, in the past, before we'll have these additional contract people, the extra 3 and the current SROs, Monrovia Middle was covering visiting Monrovia Elementary School, was visiting Endeavor, was visiting Legacy. By putting a contract person over there, that frees up additional time that our Monrovia Middle School SRO will be able to spend regular time down at the elementary school. Other questions? And I'll bring these at the June 18th board meeting. We'll bring forward the MOUs for your approval. Thank you.
All right, construction updates, item B, Mr. Malone and Mr. Kazor.
Good afternoon. The last time you had a construction update, I think, was in December, from what my recollection is from Hazel Green. So anyway, this is an update for June 2020. We'll start off with New Hope classroom additions. The picture you see on the left was what we had in December. And then the picture to the right is where they're at currently. Unfortunately, I can't read from here. The contract started on May the 17th, 2019. We're still looking at about a September completion date. They may finish a little bit earlier than that. They're making good progress now that they've gotten through our early issues with the sewer and the poor footing, poor underground material. Currently, as of 5/31, they are sitting at 69% complete. And I've got a few other pictures of that project for you. That's the main corridor, classrooms on each side. But there again, on the left, that was in December, and the one on the right was just about a week ago. Some overhead photos of that as well. The picture to your left is a drone photo from the back, from the football field area, of how it lays out between the two schools. Obviously, there's a corridor that connects to the high school area, and then toward the front, that's the picture to the right, there's a corridor that ties into the middle school gym. Sparkman Middle upgrades. That project is coming along. We're at 98, 99% complete. We started an inspection last week. We will continue that. We had some issues, but they're getting on it now, trying to finish this up. There's some fit and finish. Nothing major, but at the same time, fit and finish. We're just trying to get the project the way we want it. Far left picture is the entrance back in December. The second picture, obviously, is that same area, much more complete, nice-looking school. And then the third picture is right where you walk in. Every visitor will be walking in that front door, and that's what they see. So the picture to the left is in December, picture to the right is current state. Inside, as soon as the visitor comes into our school, they have the window there to check in. Get identified, get their background checked, that type of thing. New signage up on the corner, the Sparkman Cougars, one on each side. It's very visible from Carter Ginn Road and also from from Jeff Road. And then that other picture is just one of the admin's offices there. Sparkman High School, currently we're at 85%, if I see that from here. Tomorrow we have an above ceiling inspection scheduled with the state inspector. So what we're looking for there is everything above ceiling, electrical, plumbing, fire, whatever it may be, everything there, low voltage, so that once we get that inspection completed and passed, they can start dropping ceiling tiles in. Walls are painted, they'll have to come back and do some more of that. Flooring's going in, lights going up. It's quite a project. Here again, the drone from the front is on your left. The circle in the front, they just started excavating with that. And then this is the picture on the right is what you see from the S9 side looking over. The sky bridge that was mentioned with Dr. Minsky is right there on the left, as you can see it. We are still currently right now looking at finishing that project 1st of July, possibly the second week, but first week, second week. There are 2 critical items on that particular job right now that may cause us some delays. Exterior doors. That plant, it's a total door plant. They closed for COVID-19 and they have reopened. I think the doors are supposed to ship June the 22nd currently. So we do have a date on that. And the auditorium seating, that plant was shut during COVID, but they have resumed manufacturing. I don't have a date for that on you tonight, but we're still thinking we'll finish there in July without an issue. Picture to your left is your auditorium. You see now that they've got all the lights hanging, all the mechanical, HVAC, cooling, the clouds are hanging there, but that's from the stage area looking back. And then the picture to the right, that is looking toward S9. You can see the rooftop units there, and it's a nice package, nice project there. Lynn Fanning, we've just gotten started. Had the contract back on April the 16th, and base bid, they should be June 2021 for completion. As soon as they finish that, they'll move into alternate 1 and 2. Alternate 1 and 2, if you remember in our bid package when we were looking at that, alternate 1 is the canopy out in the front entrance, and alternate 2 is tearing out the old kitchen area and making it a special needs. So they're on track. That they've gotten it excavated now. They should have the pad complete no later than Monday, as long as they didn't get any rain today. Everything was excavated. They were going back in with their fill. We had estimated about 35,000 yards of compactable fill dirt to go back in. And luckily, with good soil testing, I think we're at about 30,000 yards, so we won't have any surprises there. It's gone well. It's early, but it's gone well so far. Hazel Green Elementary, the freezer cooler replacement, it used to be right there on that back wall. If you remember, we had that removed, and they will be going in with a larger freezer and cooler and upgraded. So that project should be through at the end of this month, but we're saying July the 15th. So it will not affect any school when we start to open. Other capital projects, the New Market School, the construction's been done for some time now. It's 99%. All inspections have been completed. We're adding exterior lighting, just a couple of areas there on a canopy for safety and one to light up the little small parking lot in the back. There was no lighting on it at all, so we're adding a light there for safety. And then New Hope Elementary, the roof 99% complete. All we're waiting on is the manufacturer to get there. They send a manufacturer rep out to inspect the roof so that they can give us our warranties. We're waiting on that so that we can have our warranties in hand, and then we'll do our final inspection and our punch list. Any questions on our capital projects and where we're at in it?
Can you describe the paving aspect of Sparkman? What's the status of it? Is there a paving aspect to it?
Paving, yes, ma'am. In the front, in the circle, they were getting the dirt working all ready for that. The parking lot is a phase two or a different contract, actually. So what they've done is move the equipment from the back of the school where the old sewer plant was at around to the front. They're getting it ready now so they can get it all prepped. They'll pave, and one of the last things they'll do is pave. And then they'll also go out on Ford's Chapel Road and mill that area, just take the top surfaces of the paving off and pave that at the same time.
What's the date on that one?
I would still say by the end of July. Give them a little time right there. But I think when I say that, probably mid, because that's part of the total package, and that'll have to be complete for our final inspection.
Is there any thought, or have you have a timeline for when the system might be able to convert the old lunchroom at Central into classrooms?
We hope to start some demolition on that very soon. We was over there looking at it just a couple of days ago with the principal, looking at that, and we've talked to the county. We can start tearing out some of that, put it out there. They'll pick up the trash for us. So we are looking to try to get into that. We were hoping to do some of that work during the COVID-19 with the shutdown, but there again, for social distancing and not being able to go out and go to work and have all the guys there, so that put us a little behind.
Joe, this is for Mary Louise, but when do we think we're going to be able to open up Davy Jones's vault, AKA the Monrovia Elementary pod?
I didn't see a picture on that.
It's not long till November.
Promise you I'm going to take care of you. If you and I do it just on the weekend, just us, I'll have you taken care of. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, item C, discussion of a change of policy 7.13.2, the virtual school eligibility. Thank you. So some time ago, 3 years ago, the state required or passed a law for us to, all districts, to provide a virtual program for students in grades 9 through 12. And so we were actually a program providing those digital programs for our students. Last year, we just completed our first year as a standalone virtual school. So with that changing from just offering a program for virtual, we had to, and transitioning to a full school virtual program, we have to adjust the criteria to meet that particular requirement. So what we need to do is just make an adjustment to, there we go. We just need to make an All right, which way did this thing go? This is the old policy that we actually had. This policy that we currently have actually works for a virtual program, not being an actual standalone school. So because it's just a program, this was the policy that we actually followed, and it actually has to do with student eligibility criteria. When we move from a program to an actual school, this criteria does not reflect the requirements of an actual standalone school. And so this is what we're actually having to change the policy to. And so the new policy will actually read, students who are enrolled in the Madison County school system or live in the Madison County school system's attendance zone are eligible to attend in the MCSS Virtual Academy. And the reason for this is, just like any other school in our district, if a parent or if a student lives within our zone, they can freely go to that particular zone school. Well, our virtual school, being that it's standalone now, it's an actual bona fide school, the old requirements are no longer valid because we have to allow any of our students who are actually in our school zone, in the Madison County school zone, to be able to attend. So any student in Madison County can actually attend our virtual academy. So that's the reason for the change in policy, to reflect transitioning from an actual program to an actual live bona fide school. Any questions? That's the simple part of it.
So essentially, you just removed the restrictions and
Yes.
kind of opened it up.
Absolutely. The restrictions of enrollment, because it's an actual school, we can't have those restrictions for
Okay.
students.
Are we still limiting the number of students who can enroll in the virtual academy?
We are not limiting the number, no.
So what happens if you have a massive influx of students? What's the plan as far as, will you just transfer teachers into the virtual academy, or what's the plan if you have a
Well,
massive amount of students?
If we have a massive number of students, we will have to look at being able to provide, to make sure we can provide for those needs. Right now, we've received additional teaching units to actually run the school. And so with those teaching units, we'll be able to accommodate, additional students. We've been funded based on ADM, based on those particular numbers. So if we get a mass number, then we'd have to look at how we would make sure that we're able to make sure we are covering the students that enter into that program.
How many students total can we put in the virtual academy? What's our cap?
There is
There is
not,
no
there is no cap. We don't
Okay,
have
so I
a
thought,
cap.
because I always thought that a restricting factor for the virtual academy was the software and the licensing fees for the software. So I always I assumed, made that assumption, that we had a cap, but you're saying that there is no cap. We
I
could put
do
as
not-
many students in there as we wanted to.
Right at this point, we do not have a cap on our numbers. We would have to look at the software and those things.
Well, based on the number of teachers you have, is there a soft cap? Like, is there kind of a defined number of students that should be there based on the number?
So last year, we had 275 students enrolled in the school. And so we were funded based on that particular number, so.
Okay.
And do we have any idea who's going to be in it this year?
Not at the moment. We're actually taking enrollment. Students are enrolling. So right now, our enrollment is at 175. And so we anticipate that growing.
And in relation to where we were last year with that enrollment, do you know what the number was around this time last year?
I do not,
Okay.
no, sorry.
Okay.
So this will be one option available to
This will be one
students.
option.
All right, and there will be other options?
Yes, there'll be other options. There will be the traditional option, and then we're looking at providing an additional virtual option that will be connected to
To the
the actual
school.
schools, yes.
So that hasn't changed?
No, that hasn't changed. And the state is also looking at providing a program as well that the school systems will be able to use, so we're working through those options.
Somebody last night was calling me a lame duck board member, and I said, look, things change every day.
Absolutely.
We're in a very fluid time. So, all right, so one of the options there.
So is there a deadline for any of these enrollment options? Or is it like the last,
For a virtual school, if it operates and functions just like a regular school now. So in terms of an enrollment, if a parent desires to enroll into the virtual school, we have to allow them to enroll into the school.
And
At any
last
point.
year, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Last year, like for exams and things and for helps, on the other side of the county, they could go to Sparkman 9, is that right?
We were at Hazel Green and we had here. So there were other areas that they could go to. So right now it'll be at Hazel Green and then here at the Career Tech Center.
So just two places. We might have to look at expanding that if the.
If the numbers reflect us having to do that, we'll work through that and find other additional places.
are you going to leave the virtual academy, the software the same? Because you couldn't test.
OdysseyWare was, yes, we're using OdysseyWare. And there are other ways in which we can actually test kids and things of that nature. But we also will have, and just to go back to your comment, we have Monrovia Elementary and Mount Carmel will be two additional places that we have, because we have elementary as well. So we're 3 through 12.
It is 3 through 12. So the virtual option for K2 would be totally through the school.
It would be, yes, through the school.
So when we were talking about earlier, you couldn't let the kids test because it would violate the confidentiality of those tests if it wasn't monitored. But that's the same or different now?
We're looking at that in terms of how we will adjust the testing option. Right now, last year we had students who would come into the, one of the labs and they would test. We're looking at maybe possibly adjusting that particular option.
Okay.
But we're still in discussion on what that'll look like. But it is an option.
Anything else? Thank you, Alan.
All right, thank you. Discussion of women's wrestling supplement. Mr. Kubik? Uh-oh.
I have this over in my office as well, and we sent you a document that outlines the supplement for girls or women's wrestling, and he's here to speak to you about that if the board has any questions. Currently there are three high schools. We also have a list of the three high schools who do have female wrestling teams. I'll turn it over to him, unless you guys want him to come to the boardroom and speak to you about it.
Yeah, if he could come in, that'd be great.
Come on down. You're the next contestant.
He's on his way, sir.
Thank you.
Spin the wheel when he gets here. We're not carrying you over the threshold.
Other than mine. Good afternoon. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Sounds like it. Okay. This spring, the Central Board of Control, the HSAA, approved for the first time for girls to qualify to wrestle and to have a wrestling team. And they have, to begin with, there's going to be 3 tournaments that the young ladies will be able to go to as a girls' team and wrestle like competitors, where in the past they've been wrestling against the guys, and it's just been everyone wrestled each other. So for this time, moving forward, they're going to go ahead and let the young ladies have 3 tournaments in hopes that we're going to grow. And then once those tournaments are done, the girls will still qualify to participate in the state championship series moving forward. So the recommendation, or what we thought would be a good proactive move, is to go ahead and present this to you guys about a supplement for a female coach for our young ladies in wrestling. Currently, we have New Hope High School, Hazel Green High School, and Sparkman High School that have females that do wrestle. So that's kind of what we're recommending, or let you guys talk about, and would be a good step for equality moving forward for our young ladies. Any questions about that?
Okay, so 3 tournaments for an all-girls team.
Right.
But then that would qualify them to wrestle in the state tournament against boys, or would they have their own?
At this time, they
state
would
tournament?
wrestle against boys. They would go to the sectional or the super regional. They've
Right.
changed it. So they would then, once their tournaments were over, they would be allowed to go to the sectionals or the North region and then the state if they qualified.
Have we
And-
had any do that in the past?
I don't know that we've had any that's made it to the state tournament yet from our system.
But there have been girls.
Yes, ma'am.
That made it across the state.
Yes, ma'am.
So, just, I can foresee that this would happen. If you have a very competitive young lady in wrestling, that she might feel like that she's not really advancing her skills by just doing these 3 tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
So can they elect to stay where they are and wrestle with the guys, or
I don't know that
what's
there's
the deal on
any
that?
guidance that says they cannot do both.
Okay.
I think these are going to be specifically just for females.
Females.
We'll probably, I guess the encouragement is to get more young ladies involved in the sport of wrestling and give more an opportunity where they can become confident amongst other girls where, you know, they may move forward. And I could see at some point having their own female division as it grows in popularity. I knew you would ask me a wrestling question, Ms. Doe.
Well, if you need me to call any matches, I'm certified.
So in our current situation, the coach would be the same for the boys and the girls, or will we have dedicated coaches for both?
It would be my thought or recommendation would to have a separate
Separate, okay.
coach, thus the
If it-
separate
if it-
supplements.
If it was the same, they would get both supplements?
That would be something we probably need to discuss further. I don't, just my opinion is, I think it needs to be separate for various reasons, but, you know, I think there's someone needs to spend that amount of time with those athletes that they spend with the other athletes if I'm a dedicated female coach. Just like we have girls' basketball coaches that's what they focus on.
And I think we would have to look at it like we look at girls' basketball. If you have a male coach, there's always a female assistant.
Right, right.
So it's just,
Err on the side of common sense, yes.
right.
How many girls roughly do we have total wrestling in Madison County? I should know that, but
I do not know, sir, sorry.
I would say not very many.
Probably,
Handful.
handful.
less than 10.
Okay.
I would imagine. I just think it's a great opportunity to get more people out.
I do think when I was at Buckhorn, I had several every year who were wrestling with boys.
Yeah.
And they might be more interested if they were, there might be more parents willing to let them wrestle if they were just wrestling against girls.
Exactly. Yes, ma'am.
Well, it's definitely could be a Title IX issue, so I think we have to move on with this.
Okay.
In
Any
my
more
opinion.
questions? All right, thank y'all.
Thank you, LaBelle.
Thank
Thank you, LaBelle.
Thanks, LaBelle.
Ellen, before we move on to the special session, I just want to clarify one thing with the virtual academy. What you said was that any student living in Madison County could enroll in the virtual academy. But what I think I read up there was that any student living in the Madison County school zone,
That's correct.
right.
Attendance zone.
attendance zone.
Any student living in the Madison County attendance zone can
I
attend.
just wanted to clarify that, because I think
Yes.
you said Madison County, which would mean that somebody from Madison City or Huntsville City can
No,
pop into
it's-
our
it's
virtual
the
academy.
attend-
So I
it's
just
the
want to make sure
attendance
that
zone. Absolutely.
The attendance zone,
Yep.
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for clearing that up.
But there could be potential in the future for that, correct?
No,
At
not
at any
for-
point, we wouldn't allow,
No, it's my understanding that we are under an order, desegregation order, that will not allow us to allow students outside of the Madison County attendance zone to attend our virtual academy.
If that was something you're interested in, we look at it, through that process, but there's also, a state statute that talks about children attending zone and
gotcha, okay.
There's a few hurdles you have to go through to get to do it, but there are other school systems
Right.
that do that.
Right,
Yes.
right,
There's a path,
Athens does it,
to
I
it,
think.
but it's a,
Doesn't Athens do that?
yeah.
But I don't think they're under,
they're.
Not under a deseg
yeah.
order.
right.
I don't know. I
I
don't
think
think
it's
so.
set up differently.
It's a virtual. I just wanted to make sure we clarified that, because what I heard was Madison County as a whole, not Madison County as the attendance zone.
No, it's a Madison County attendance
Got it,
zone. And the policy actually reflects the attendance zone. So
Yeah,
the
and
wording is
that's what was
definitely-
up there. I just want to make sure that what was up there and what was said are
Absolutely.
in sync. Okay. All right, moving on to the special session.
All right. Administrative items, letter A, I recommend approval of personnel items.
Motion.
Second,
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval for the following personnel items as attached. Are there any specific questions on anyone? If there are none, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Item B, in accordance with the Alabama Code 16-22-15, I delegate authority to Ken Kubik as the Director of Personnel for Madison County Schools to take action on the attached personnel item, the attached personnel action. Mr. Kubik?
I recommend approval of the personnel item addendum.
Motion.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of the personnel addendum item. Any questions? If there are none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Item C, I recommend approval of contracts for services.
Motion.
Second.
Y'all are making it easy for me. I have a recommendation approval for the contract of services as attached. Any discussion? Any questions?
Karen sent us the information.
Yes, she did.
Good job getting us ready.
If there are no questions or comments, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. That concludes our agenda items for this evening. I did want to just touch base on one thing, the discussion of the open meeting or the meeting that allows the public to just come in and speak. We never did settle on a date for that. I was looking at into the July timeframe. Does anybody have any objections for doing that?
What's the time frame that we have to do it?
Cynthia, the timeframe for doing the,
just have to do it within the year. And you did it last year, was in May, and you decided not to proceed. I recommended that you not do it at a time that you did when you first published the team.
correct, and we were still doing the virtual, most of the time we were doing the virtual meetings, so,
And then summer is just like, you don't really expect
yeah.
anybody to
So
come. so-
probably August timeframe is probably the better time,
Yeah.
so,
And that would be up to, I mean, I would do it before November,
yes,
when you have to change the board, but I would do it under this current board.
okay. So we've got, okay, so anytime after school starts is that anybody in agreement on that one, after school starts? Okay. Okay, so we'll look at the calendar and we'll set it for sometime after the school starts.
Whole board training, that got canned, okay.
And we actually
We're supposed to do.
We actually did that for this past year because we did the whole board training when we were doing the superintendent search. So we're good on our whole board training, but that did get canceled. AASB canceled the whole board training. But we still completed that. So, all right. Anything from each individual board member? Anything for the good of the board? Any comments, questions?
So we're gonna, do we have to approve the calendar since we've changed to have e-learning days, even though the calendar's basically the same?
We will bring it forth to have the calendar approved with the e-learning days. And I sent you all a copy of that
You did.
information, but we've got to send it to policy review. I'll send that out so that plenty of eyes can be on it and understand exactly what that is.
But nothing else has come down from a state mandating that we do this or that?
Not at this time, no. We're looking
Yet.
for something around June the 19th.
Okay.
Okay.
So you said students were enrolling now, right?
Yes.
So when
We have
will when will
175
that
so
close?
far.
Is
Mr.
that-
Traywick, I don't think there's a closing date for that. Mr. Traywick? Yeah, it's,
That's correct. There is no public date on the phone.
yeah.
Any other questions, comments, discussions? Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out this evening. I appreciate your all hard work and effort as we move forward through these weird times. But thank you very much for being here this evening. The next meeting is on the 18th of June, and we'll continue to do this forum until something happens and we have to go back into a virtual type of forum. But
Be optimistic.
I am being optimistic. I'm just saying we're going to continue with this forum. I do need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all very much. Good evening.